One of the biggest talking points regarding Martin Scorsese's gangster film The Irishman was the de-aging VFX. Scorsese hired Industrial Light and Magic to de-age, or youthify as he says, his all-star veteran cast. The likes of Robert De Niro, Al Pacino and Joe Pesci are all over the age of 70, and yet in the film need to play characters as young as in their 30s during flashback scenes. And in De Niro's case, there is one scene where the 76-year-old plays his character as young as in his early 20s. The de-aging CGI brought along with it a lot of controversy. It was the primary reason The Irishman was so expensive, costing in the regions of $150 million. And this is one of the reasons no Hollywood studio was willing to produce the picture, and Scorsese had to go to Netflix. Then a new drama started, with regards to a Scorsese gangster picture starring all these great actors not being given a wide release in cinemas, something which a few years back you would have never dreamed of happening, but that was the reality. Then of course you had the effectiveness of the CGI itself being debated, with some people having no problem with it and others having their immersion of the film ruined because of how distracting it is. As you can see, so many of the issues surrounding The Irishman relate to the CGI. In terms of the effects themselves, everyone has their own opinions, but for me personally, my feelings with regards to the aging effects were mostly positive. I was always worried before the film came out about the effects. I had no reservations about Scorsese being past it, or the cast being too old, or this being yet another gangster movie, or whatever people were feeling about The Irishman. My only worry was the special effects. When I saw the film in cinemas, my initial thoughts were that the CGI was quite distracting in the first half hour of the movie or so. I was finding it really challenging to immerse myself in the story because I was constantly scrutinizing the effectiveness of the de-aging technology. As the movie goes on, and as the characters get older, the CGI becomes more subtle until about halfway through, I pretty much stopped noticing it, and it came to a point where I couldn't tell what was CGI and what was makeup, and I therefore could enjoy the film more. When I watched the film again, and also there was the advantage of this time seeing it on Netflix and therefore a smaller screen at home, I had a lot less problem with the special effects. I enjoyed the film a lot more, because now I knew what to expect with the effects, and to be honest, the de-aging was a lot better than I had remembered. And it has to be said, when you compare the works in The Irishman to other films which have done similar things, The Irishman is now the standard against which all other movies which de-age their cast will be set against. Now when I watch the film, I pretty much have no problem with the effects. That's due to a combination of the fact that overall the effects are really good, especially on Al Pacino, and also I of course got used to the less than perfect examples of the effects in the film. Saying that though, I know there are a lot of people who found it difficult to watch the film, a bit like me on my first viewing, because of the CGI. A few weeks ago, I came across a video on YouTube by a channel called IFake, who specialize in deepfake videos, an alternative method of altering the way a person looks in a video. It's called The Irishman De-Aging, Netflix Millions versus Free Software, where they've taken scenes from The Irishman and used an apparently free software to improve the special effects. The guys who did this took only 7 days to come up with the effects. The reaction to this video has been really positive. In fact, some people in the comment section have the idea of Netflix revisiting The Irishman and doing it again with these guys. I think it's really good as well, especially when you consider that it was done for free in comparison to the vast amounts of money Netflix spent. It's not perfect. In some instances, it looks a little cartoony, and it definitely looks better when the characters aren't moving so much. I didn't really think there was much improvement on Joe Pesci and Al Pacino, but De Niro definitely looks really good in this video overall. He looks scarily close to what he looked like in his younger days, and it's interesting that he looks the best of the bunch in this video because a common complaint of The Irishman is that the de-aging on De Niro was the worst. De Niro looks stunning in the video, and you do wonder what exactly are these guys capable of, how far could they take it if they had the money and the manpower. However, I do have a few issues with this video, and I know they did it for free and it does look great, but there's a few thoughts I had on the work that I don't really see being mentioned. The first is that you can't really put the de-aging work that Netflix did and then the work that IFake did side by side and have a fair comparison. Forgetting the costs for a minute, the reason why I say this is because these guys have de-aged footage from Netflix's own footage. They're using the shots from the film that ILM have already worked on and then touched up and edited the effects. The real comparison would be if these guys got their hands on the raw, original and unedited scenes from the film and de-aged them from scratch. Then it would be really interesting to see how good they'd be able to make the effects. Another issue I have is that the faces are de-aged but the voices aren't. Say what you want about the Irishman's de-aging CGI, but I always felt that the voices matched the way the actors look. The voices weren't edited in post, it's the actors' natural voices in the movie, attempting to sound younger, and regardless of how good or bad these special effects were in the film, I think the voices matched whatever the actors look like in the movie, but I don't think that's the case here. Near the beginning of the video, where De Niro says, "I thought I was talking to General Patton," he has this grainy, low voice which sounds natural coming out of the mouth of how he's de-aging the film, but looks really weird in IFake's version. It doesn't match at all, and it looks like the actor's line is dubbed. It brings up a really interesting point as well, which I think a lot of people missed when they watched The Irishman. Because I heard a lot of people complaining that that's not what De Niro looked like when he was younger. The thing that I think many people missed is at no point in the film is he ever supposed to look like a young De Niro. He's supposed to look like a young Frank Sheeran. So a lot of the things people have attributed to De Niro's old age or the CGI, like his stiff movements in the film or the fact that he has so many wrinkles in his face even at the age of 40, is actually a reflection of the filmmakers attempting to make him look like the real-life Frank Sheeran as much as possible, who was a war veteran who didn't exactly look or move like a Hollywood actor. The video is really good at making De Niro look like a young version of himself, but somehow I feel that was never the intention of the filmmakers. Also, like I said, though in many shots it is an improvement over the film, it isn't perfect, and there are a lot of parts that look weird. A lot of these shots of Pesci, who was de-aged the best in the film, look weirdly smooth here and cartoonish, like someone's painted his face with paint closely resembling his skin colour. In fact, for all three actors, the faces look too smooth. There's something quite unnatural about it. It looks great in the shots where the actors are still, like when De Niro is waiting in the car. I mean, I would not have even guessed that this part was CGI, but when they move it looks weird. I think to myself, would I be able to watch an entire film with this level of effects and not be distracted? And I don't think so. Also the eyes. The eyes are completely wrong, and in fairness to the guys, I've always felt that one of the most difficult things for CGI to get right is a person's eyes. It looks like they haven't even bothered to change De Niro's eye colour to blue, as it is in the film. That would have made the comparison a lot more fair and noteworthy, because I felt that one of the biggest distractions in the first hour of the movie was De Niro's eyes. They didn't use contact lenses like they did in later parts of the film when he's older, and it looks really weird, and I think it's a big part of why De Niro actually looks worse than Pacino and Pesci in the film. It's the eyes. So it would have been interesting to see if these guys could improve the effects of the eyes, but it looks like they didn't even bother. The eyes of Pesci and Pacino are also off as well. They seem overly large, expressionless, dead, and when you look at it side by side with the Netflix footage, in some cases the eyes aren't even looking at the same thing. They just look expressionless, vague and blank. This is a good example. What's he looking at? Pacino doesn't even look like he's looking at De Niro. He looks like a dead person who's had his eyes forced open. Or he looks like the alien from The Thing about to burst open and eat De Niro. The part where De Niro talks about the war as well in particular, the eyes just look so wrong. Here as well, look at Pesci. He's supposed to look pissed off and intimidating, but he looks like De Niro just whipped his cock out and started banging it on the table. And this brings me to my biggest issue with the effects in this video, something that actually makes me appreciate the de-aging CGI in the movie a little more. Subscribers to my channel might recall, because I made quite a few videos on it, that Scorsese, when talking about the youthification, often spoke about the honesty of the performance, retaining the performance, and not altering what was already there. He also spoke about how they had to make De Niro look vulnerable in one scene when he was younger, and it was difficult because he looked threatening. And to some, this might sound like pretentious movie director mumbo-jumbo talk, but I think I know what he means, and it's made all the more evident with this video. Look at the Netflix footage, and then at the IFake footage, and then back at the Netflix one again. You might disagree, but I feel there's something lost when you look at the IFake footage. There's something missing, and it becomes evident that when you look at the two side by side, something is lost in the actor's performance. Look at the part where De Niro says to Bobby Cannavale, he don't have it, when he's sitting in the car. You can hear the expression in De Niro's voice, you can get a feel of the emphasis he puts on certain words, but you can't see it in the performance. But when you look back at the Netflix version, you can see his expression. You can get a gist of what he's feeling, how he's thinking. In the Netflix version, he looks interested, and he looks a little pissed off when he realizes he's been played. But in the IFake version, he looks like he's almost about to crack up laughing. The point being, it's not the same performance. It might look like a younger De Niro, yes, but it has not retained De Niro's performance from the film. It's delved into animation territory, if anything. It's the same all over the video, like in the first scene with De Niro, the general pattern part. Pause it, look at De Niro in the Netflix version, and then again at the IFake one. It's not the same expression, it's not the same performance. And this might come across as pedantic to some people, but I think this is really important. And if it isn't given importance, they might as well have ditched De Niro altogether, used a younger actor, and then just animate his face to look like Robert De Niro. And one of the byproducts of this is that you would lose the intimacy between the actors and the realness of their performances. Again, with the conversation about World War II, look how animated De Niro is in the Netflix version. Watch it with the sound off if that helps. And you can't really tell what De Niro is feeling in the IFake version, but you can in the Netflix one. With IFake's effects, it kind of seems like they've used a template face of a young De Niro and have used that for all the shots they worked on. In a way, he's making the same face again and again, and you can't get a feel of what emotion he's trying to convey, regardless of how much like a young De Niro he looks like. So yeah, those are my thoughts on it pretty much. I'm not trying to roast the guys, I think they did an amazing job, but I don't think this would work for a feature-length version of The Irishman. If anything, the video actually makes me appreciate the special effects in the film a lot more, because I know that Scorsese knew of other methods of de-aging the cast that might have even been more effective, but he didn't want to do anything that would take away from the performances, and an example of that is this very video. And I think we're all in agreement that arguably the best aspect of The Irishman is the performances from the three leads. Thanks for watching.